Shalom. So in this video, we're going to talk about the thin line between polygyny and whoremongering, right? But in order for us to understand this, we're going to have to understand a few other things. So first, we have to understand polygyny, understand the whoremonger, and then we'll see where the threshold between the two is. We're going to look at what is polygamy, what is polygyny, because sometimes people confuse the two words, and not only the words, but also the experience, right? So a lot of polygamy in the biblical culture has been masquerade under the name of polygyny, and a lot of our people do not understand the law, so they do things according to their own hearts, right? So there's a difference between polygamy and polygyny. We're going to understand what a concubine is, what whoremonger is. Then we're going to look at differences between jealousy and envy, because one of the things a lot of people do is that they'll go to different experiences in the scripture where there's a case where the man has two wives, and because there's a little rift between the two women, they equate it to jealousy, right? Which is going to go into our next question, which is, were women jealous of their husbands taking other wives in the scripture? Because there's no scripture that tells you that one woman was ever jealous of her husband going with another man. Most of the time, it's the woman that gave another woman to the husband for whatever reason. We're not dealing with the reasons. We're just showing that the woman is in agreement. So there was no jealousy for that purpose. Other cases is what? This woman goes into this man's life when he had another wife, talking about Jacob right now. Who was first? Leah was already there. If Rachel was jealous of that, why would she put himself in that situation, given that he had another wife? Right? So we're gonna get into the scriptures and see there was no jealousy. Is today, because we have natural jealousy and we have fake jealousy. So people are attributing that fake jealousy to these women in the Bible. But there's no experience that prove that the woman was jealous of her husband having sex with the other woman. We're going to see what was the actual situations about. So let us first start with polygyny. Polygyny is plurality of wives, meaning the man is entitled to have other wives, right? More than one wife. It's forbidden for the woman to have other husbands. So that is polygyny. Polygamy, on the contrary, is both the man or the woman, they're entitled to more than one partners. Now that is according to society, not according to nature, not according to the laws of the Most High, right? Now polygamy, like I said, the women too are entitled to other partners, but that is outside the nature of the woman. So if you see a woman who's having sex with somebody else apart from her husband, then that clearly indicates that something is really wrong, meaning she has her perception altered. Now, there are many ways a woman's perception can be altered, right? It can be altered based on how she saw her father treating her mother, and that took a toll on her. So she said, you know what? I'm never going to put myself in a position where I'm powerless to any man, because the memory of what she witnessed with her father, it lives here, and it's hard to change that. So she doesn't put herself to be powerless. She will fight every day just so she doesn't end up in a situation where she finds herself powerless under no man. Even if the man has a good heart, even if the man is not an abuser, not into having other women and anything, it's still gonna be hard for her because of what she witnessed. So that experience can do that. Also, just her relationship with her father, a father to daughter relationship, that can affect her. For example, the man took another woman, so they parted. Her father separated. She's growing with the father, but she looks like the mother. Now the father has to deal with that. So every time he looks at her, he's reminded of his ex-wife, right? So he treats the daughter in a way very bad, which she doesn't deserve. So that relationship there, father-daughter, can affect how she perceives relationship with men, right? Because the unconscious memory still lives here. You cannot force anything out of awareness, right? And a lot of us do that to think that we're healed, but healing is not forcing something out of awareness, because in reality, you cannot. Everything happens in awareness. There's nothing that happens outside of it, right? So all our experiences take place there. Now, intimate relationships. A person can have bad romantic relationships, and that affect her perception. And you have other cases where environment itself, meaning you grow up in a certain community where people live a certain way, and you think that, oh, that's normal because everyone's doing that. You see the type of celebrities, the type of content they have in their music, the influence on the young people. So it's like that's natural. So that can alter a woman's perception, and she starts doing things outside of her nature. But she's really destroyed up here. She's broken somewhat. So that's unnatural. Polygamy is unnatural. Now, when it comes to a woman's infidelity, it is very painful and it's very hard to be forgiven from the standpoint of the man, because when a man places value on a woman, he really places value. So when she does something contrary to her own values or the values of the relationship, it is very painful. And because that is not natural, it is harder to be forgiven. And you'll wonder sometimes, how is it that she keeps forgiving him? It's easier. The discipline it takes the man is not the same for the woman. That the woman's nature is disciplined to be in that way. The man has to learn it. He has to practice it until he restrains himself. Even nature proves that the woman is not built for that. For example, if you put a woman with 10 different men, guess what? She can only replicate after one man. Only one man out of the 10 can impregnate her. She's closed off after that. So nature proves that. Now, on the contrary, dealing with polygyny, it is in the nature of the man. You put one man with a room full of women, guess what? All of them can replicate after his kind. It's in the nature. However, there is yet a threshold, because we have to know where this nature ends and where you're going off into something else. Because a man's perception can be altered too by different things. Now, to deal with the replicating after the man, let's go to a few scriptures and we're going to understand that when it says in the beginning that let them multiply and replenish the earth, that commandment, that universal law was given to the male species, because you can only replicate after the man, right? Now let's look at a few scriptures. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 1, and verse 28. It says, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Now, sometimes you read this, and because you read them, you're thinking man and woman. But is that what it's really talking about? When you jump up to verse 21, it says, and God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. This is in the masculine form because it's actually telling us something. You can only replicate after the kind of the male. not after the woman. And this is not a debate about man and woman thing. This is just the laws of nature, the laws of life, right? Now let us understand how this works. We have what is called DNA, right? Now in the DNA, there is information. You have information such as hair texture, eye color, complexion, body structure, language also, and other things, right? Now, everything here inside the DNA that the man has, the woman has also. So she has hair texture, eye color, complexion, body structure, everything else, right? But there's one thing in the DNA that is prominent, that stands out, that the woman doesn't have, which is the seed. So everything up here can be exchanged with the man, the male and the female, but there's nothing in the woman to exchange information with the seed. It is prominent, so there's nothing to change it or to alter it, right? So nature shows that. This is why when you go to the book of Leviticus 19, verse 19, it says, Ye shall ye shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with diverse kind. Because you see, certain things are natural with animals. Like you're not gonna see a goat go and jump up on a dog, or a sheep go and jump up on a pig, right? We are the ones that do a lot of these things because we don't understand. For example, the reason why he had to tell us not to let your animals mix is because what? For example, when you take a horse and you put it with a donkey, because of the DNA, some things can go cross and cross. For example, where the hair texture is in the horse might be the complexion in the DNA of the donkey. So these informations going cross and cross and cross and cross. So guess what? You go all the way until you reach the chromosome. So now you produce something that cannot do what? Cannot replicate, because you mix the DNA. You mix two things that their DNA are not compatible. So now you are destroying your own wealth or your own increase, because the horse after his kind would bring you more horses. The donkey after his kind would bring you more donkeys. But you put both of them together, now you just destroyed your the increase of your wealth. So when he says that, it carried a deeper meaning. When he says not to gender them with diverse kinds, because people like hybrids. It's not always good, right? We don't want to go down this road. So now still continuing on the aspect of the seed, because it's going to get interested when we reach to another part. Let's get some more on multiplying and replenish the earth. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 9, and verse 1. It says, And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, who is the them? Noah and his sons, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Meaning, these people would replenish the earth after their kind. Let's get some more. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 16. And let's jump down to verse 10. It says, And the angel of the Lord said unto her, talking about Hagar, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for a multitude. Now it gets interesting here, because it's talking to the woman, and he said he would multiply her seed. Now when you read seed and you're thinking of that little thing, seed, you get confused because we know the woman does not carry seed. So what is it talking about? Another word or a more appropriate word would be offspring. It would be offspring, right? Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 17, and verse 20. Because there's a lot of confusion with this word seed, and we're going to look at it in Genesis chapter 3. It says, "And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee, behold, I have blessed him." Ishmael is Hagar's son, "and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly." It's the same thing he just said over in verse 10 of chapter 16. So the seed of the woman is talking about the offspring, because when you're talking about seed in terms of sperm, women do not carry that same thing that the man carries. So it's just saying his offspring. No, her offspring. That's all it's saying. No, going back to Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15, because this is where people get all crazy when they want to be too spiritual. Spiritual doesn't mean something that cannot be explained or understood. Spiritual means truth. It means that you might cannot explain it by logic, but it is truth. Whether you can use logic to prove it or not, for example. One of the things a lot of people believe in is something called a lunar eclipse. What is an eclipse? An eclipse is having something here, a light here, and another object that is in alignment with that light and cast a shadow, right? Lunar eclipse. What object goes in alignment with the moon? Now the question is, what object stands before the moon for you to call it a lunar eclipse? There's no proof of an object there. But we think that everything needs to be explained by logic for it to be true. No, truth is truth, and it doesn't need logic. The point is, the moon turns blood. It doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't need to be explained. So we will come up with the stupidest logics for us to believe this, that the earth casts a shadow and the moon turns blood. Okay, if the moon is above you, the earth is below, how does something that's below cast a shadow in front of something that's above? Why do we go under trees? The branches are above and the shadow would be cast below. You cannot cast your shadow on the tree that's above. So that's the stupidest logic. The moon just turns blood. And there's no proof of an object that goes before the moon. We can prove the solar eclipse that the moon goes before the sun, but you cannot prove an object going before the moon. And to let you know that the earth is not up there, the reason you look up to see the eclipse, the so-called eclipse, is because it's above. You are below. And that explains also about the theory of planets. All the other planets, you look up to see them. Earth is here. How is it a planet again? You see, the thing is, we want logic to explain truth, and it doesn't work like that. Truth is truth, whether logic can explain it or not. The earth is dry land, not a planet. Right? So let's come back here. It says, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman." So let's write this down. I will put enmity between thee. So who is it talking about? The serpent. And the woman. So between the Phoenicians and the Israelites before the flood is the Adamites. Over a process of time, they were called Israelites, but it's the same genealogy, right? So when we talk about the seed of the woman, what was it really talking about? It's talking about her offsprings. So the offspring of these people after the flood and the offspring of this woman, Eve, after the flood, there will be enmity between the two. And we will see that. Let's read the last precept once again. It says, it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So let's go to a few more examples, and then we're going to come back and explain this part. You're going to see it says the same thing to the other woman who carried on this genealogy, right? So let's go to Genesis chapter 22 and verse 17. It says, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. Remember that. Thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. Thy seed shall possess the gates of his enemies. Right? Now let us go to chapter 26 and verse 4. It says, and I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Let's jump down to verse 24. It says, and the Lord appeared unto him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 28, and verse 3. It says, and God Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayst be a multitude of people. And it's talking about Jacob. So you see, it came from Abraham, it went to Isaac, it went to Jacob, dealing with the offspring. Right? Now let's go back to the book of Genesis, chapter 24, and verse 60. It says, and they blessed Rebecca, talking about her brothers and so on, because she was going to leave the family to go to be the wife of Isaac. It says, thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions. And here comes, and let thy seed possess the gates of those which hate them. Let thy seed possess the gates of they which hate them. Who hated the Israelites? All the people of Canaan, Tyre, Zidon, the Hivites, the Hittites, all those people, 7 nations greater than Israel. It's the same thing that was talking about in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. Let's read it one more time. It says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed, thy offspring. So it goes back to Canaan, his sons, and her seed, which is Israel. It says, it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. It's the same thing as it's saying. He's gonna conquer the gates of his enemies. Right? There's nothing spiritual about that. There's nothing hard to be understood. It's the same prophecy from Eve to Sarah to um, Rebecca to Rachel to Leah is the same thing. So with that being said, it's just showing you that multiply and replenish the earth really is a universal law to the male species. Animals, plants, humans, it's the same, right? No, even though polygyny is the nature of the man, guess what? There's still a threshold. Polygyny is still governed by the same principles that govern monogamous relationships. Let's look at this one. Let's go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 20. Because, like I said, there's a lot of polygamous relationships that are masqueraded under the name polygyny. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 21, it says, "And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof." So he took one of his ribs and he sealed the family unit, Adam and Eve, their children. That's the family unit there, right? That same law governs polygynous relationship. Let's go to the book of Genesis 31 and verse 50. It says, "If thou shalt afflict my daughter," so Laban is speaking to Jacob because he had his two daughters to wife, right? And the two surrogate mothers. He was saying, "If you shall afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness between me and thee." So he's telling him, hey, you have these two wives, which are my daughters. The witness between us is the Most High. So you're going to be over there. I'm going to be over here, right? No harm is going to come to you as long as you stay within the confinements of this marital agreement. We're sealing the family unit with you, Jacob, and these two wives. So you see, the thing is, if you're entering a polygynous relationship, before you cross the line, before you become one flesh, you have to make sure that you have an agreement to say, okay, when you say polygyny, how many wives do you intend on having? Is it going to be two? Is it going to be three? Because people are under the misconception that polygyny is about, okay, you can be my wife and I can be having sex with these people out here. That's not polygyny. This is why I said you have polygamous relationships being masqueraded under the name polygyny. It has to be governed because then you know what you're doing? You're now outside of your nature. Jacob sealed his two wives, two surrogate mothers. That was it. He never took another wife while these two were alive. And knowing the hearts of people these days, that's not an agreement you would want to be just a verbal agreement. It's something you'd want to be written. He signs, you sign that, okay, this relationship is only two wives, three wives, whatever the agreement is, and the terms of, divorce. Because you cannot put her away because any reason. The reason has to be biblical because you're under the law. So you'd have to have the terms of divorce also. So yes, polygyny is governed by rules and principles and morals, moral codes and so forth. And you have to live by a moral code. Otherwise, how do you know when you're outside of your nature? Are you within the confinements of your nature if there isn't a moral code to make boundaries. A lot of men, they want to have this woman in the home to say, okay, you're a wife, but then you're just outside having sex with anybody you want. No, you're committing whoredom, right? And we will see further down in this lesson. No, dealing with concubines, right? Concubine, there are women that are free, like Sarah, like Rebecca, like you today. You are a free woman, right? You had women who were maid servants. You know, your master rules over you for a time until the Jubilees, right? Because the Hebrew servants, there were laws that governed the Hebrew servants, right? Because slavery was legitimate, providing that you ruled them according to the laws of the Most High and not deal with them by deceit. You had bond servants, which are women of the other nations, right? The thing is, you women today, you are free women. So you should not be at the status of a concubine, which is more like a secondary wife. Not a second wife, but a secondary. So the concept is, okay, this woman in the house is a primary wife and you're a secondary wife. And one of the things a lot of men do or think they can do is give this primary wife power over the other wife. She's not your servant. So this woman has no power over her. She cannot make no decision that this woman cannot make. This is not Sarah and Hagar situation. You're not dealing with a wife and a concubine. You are all free women. You are Leah and Rachel. Rachel did not have power over Leah, even though Jacob loved him more. Preference. Leah didn't have power over Rachel. So you women need to understand that. This is why I don't like the term second wife, because it creates the illusion that this woman is first, this woman is a bigger priority, and you're second. No, two wives. That sounds better. You sound more equal. Stop allowing men to give their primary wives power over you. And this is why certain problems end up taking place. Most of the times, you know where the problems come? Where the problems come in? When the man passes away and it's time to deal with inheritance. Because everything is different now. But then Abraham would give gifts to his sons while they were young. Today is when people are dying. You see people fighting over who is to get what. That should have been done a long time ago. Should have been established. This portion goes to this woman and the children of this woman. This portion of land goes to this woman and her children. There is no quarrel. She has no authority over this portion of land here. This woman has no authority over this portion of land here. These vehicles over here are in her name. This woman has no power over it. These vehicles over here are in her name. This woman have no power over it. These things should be established, so no one should be fighting over anything. But because a lot of men do not understand the order or the moral code, this is why so many problems come in. You have to establish these things while you are yet strong and in power. Otherwise, in the end, you'll see how much of a vanity it all was. So now let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 21, dealing with Hebrew servants. Because we have to first establish that it was legal. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 21, and verse 2. It says, if thou buy an Hebrew servant, keyword Hebrew, because one of the things a lot of people say is that it could be Hebrew Edomite, Hebrew Ishmaelite, Hebrew Moabite, Ammonite. What else they call Hebrew? whoever else they call Hebrew, they try to put them in this category. But again, like I said, truth does not need logic to explain it. So they're going by the logic that Abraham was the Hebrew, therefore Lot, his nephew, was also a Hebrew, which from him came Ammon and Moab. And then you have Esau, Jacob's brother. Isaac was an Hebrew, so you're saying that Esau was also an Hebrew. Okay, but we are allowed to buy servants of the other nations, right? Bond servants. So why would it be only talking about the Hebrew servants? If it's talking about Edomites and so what, we cannot buy Philistine servants. We cannot have them as possessions too. Hebrew is only Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because let's say hypothetically that Moab, Ammon, Esau, Ishmael, these people were Hebrews. When the Most High sent Moses to Pharaoh, what did Moses say? The God of the Hebrews have sent me to you. So if he's the God of the Hebrews, and Hebrews are Moab, Ammon, Ishmael, you know what? You cannot teach that the God of this Bible is only the God of the sons of Jacob. That would be contrary to the point that you have Hebrew Edom, Hebrew Ishmael, and so forth. So Hebrew, when it says to buy an Hebrew servant, it's talking about your own people. Not no Ishmaelite, because there's nowhere in the Bible that has ever made a reference to Ishmaelite being a Hebrew, to Esau being an Hebrew, to Moab being an Hebrew, to Ammon being an Hebrew, or any other sons of Abraham. That's unbiblical. So when it says, if thou buy an Hebrew servant, it's making a distinction because the way you treat an Hebrew servant is different from servants of the other nations. You cannot make a bond servant out of your own people according to the law. You can take the foreigners as bond servants. This is why with the Hebrews, after the year of Jubilee, guess what? They can go free. So they serve you 6 years. In the 7th year, when the Jubilee falls, they can go. Now let's look at some of the circumstances on which you can buy a Hebrew servant. This is the book of Exodus chapter 22 and verse 3. It says, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be bloodshed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. So you could take this person as a slave for what he did to your property, right? That's one case. Now let us go to the book of Nehemiah chapter 5 and verse 5. It says, yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children, and lo, we bring into bondage our sons and our daughters to be servants, and some of our daughters are brought unto bondage already. Neither is it in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyard. So yes, you could sell your son and daughter as servants. Now let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 39. It says, and if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, so this is where it says you can buy an Hebrew servant. It says, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant. So he's making a distinction again between what? Regular servants and bond servants. Bondmaid, bondmen. You take other nation as bondmen and bondmaid, not your own people. Right? Now, as for concubines of the other nations, because again, you have wicked Israelites who wants to have, not want to, who are actually doing it now, having sex with other nations and say they're concubines. Okay, how did you get a, say you want a Ukrainian concubine? How would you have to get a Ukrainian concubine? You'd have to go to Russia, join the armed forces, conquer Ukraine, and the women that you take prisoners of war, them you turn to your concubine. If you need a Chinese concubine, you'd have to go make war with China. The prisoners of war you take, and if there's a woman that you like, you can do unto her as you please. You going out there taking other women and say that's a concubine? There's nowhere in the Bible that says that. None. You'd have to go to war and conquer these women and take them prisoners of wars and make them into whatever you want to make them. So having understood all that, now we can deal with whoremonger. Now, a whoremonger is a person who is morally corrupted, a debauchee, living outside the confinements of their nature, right? So let's go to the book of Leviticus 19 and verse 29. It says, it says, do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore. Now, the thing is, we hear the word prostitute and we say, oh no, I'm not doing that to my daughter, because in this culture, when you think of prostitute, you think of when you think of the word prostitute, you think of sex plus money equal prostitution. And this creates a very big problem because that's not what it's talking about. So what if you're doing the same sex that does not involve money? Wouldn't it be prostitution? No. What if we were to substitute this word prostitution and use words like defile or pollute? Let's read it one more time using the substituted words. It says, do not defile thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, or do not pollute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore. Now, what are some of the ways that we pollute our daughters or defile them, causing them to be whores? This is the book of Mark, chapter 10, and verse 9. It says, what therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. Again, what therefore the laws of God given to Moses hath joined together, let no man put asunder. That means the mother, the father, the big brothers, or whoever. Now, here's an experience. You have your 16-year-old daughter. She's attracted to this guy. This guy is attracted to her. Now, guess what? They're having sex. But you don't like that guy. So, you know what you do? You go in there, you fight against that relationship, and you stop it. Now, guess what happens? The more you're fighting, is the more your daughter is convinced that there has to be something good why you are fighting so much. And the more you fight, is the stronger her love gets for him. However, eventually you prevail, that they don't stop seeing each other. Now your daughter, guess what? Now your daughter is 20. Remember, What the laws of God join together, let no man part asunder. What is what is the law of God that would have joined them together? Let's go to the book of Exodus. Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 22 and verse 16. It says, if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. But guess what? Because you didn't like the guy, maybe because he doesn't drive a fancy car, maybe because he doesn't have a high career job, whatever the reasons be, and you fight against that relationship and prevail, and now they're separated, guess what? Now your daughter is 20, 25. Now this man sees her, takes her, takes her to the church, make her his wife according to society, signed the wedding papers, made the wedding vows. You know what happens in the night when he goes to lie with her? What is it called? That is an act of adultery. You see, the problem is we live under the concept of the Roman marriage or the Western marriages, and we use it to outdo the biblical marriage. So all of us now are doing what? Living in, sleeping in defiled marriage beds. You, once your daughter had sex with the man, the only thing that your job should be that what? You take the man, you counsel the man, you bring him under the law, you try to do whatever you need to do that he stays with your daughter forever. But you stop that. Now she takes another man. That's an act of adultery. You know what? You polluted your daughter. And it's not only your daughter. You guys do this to yourself too. But first, let's deal with the father part in this matter. How does a father pollute or defile the daughter? Now, we know the father has the right to refuse the marriage, right? Why or under what circumstance? The circumstance that the father can refuse that is because there is a way to do it. So if you entice a maid, if you spit your game and she likes it and you like her and you see that okay, things can happen, right? Your job is to do what? To go to the parents and let it be known. Say, hey, you know, your daughter and I, we are attracted to each other and this is this, that is that, and you have the parents' blessing because it was a shame and disgrace to have sex with the daughter and with no respect of the parents. That's all it's saying. So you can be punished for that, punished by the father. It's not a sin, but you can be punished. So the father can collect the dowry price and refuse to give you the daughter because of how you go about the situation. So even us who are in this truth, we should be teaching this to our young men in the truth that, hey, let's honor the parents of the woman that you like. Go and sit with them, have a drink with them, have a meal with them, because you'll be marrying family into families. It's not just about you and the wife, it's the family being married into this family. In the movie, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, or something like that, you see when the teacher guy liked his sister and they were doing things. And what happened? The woman was so mad because it was shame and disgrace to have sex with the daughter without paying the dowry price. She saw that as a big shame. So some cultures still uphold that policy. We don't do it in the West. So when we read these things in the law, it's like we cannot even integrate it into our lives. That's how far we are from God's word. Because if this book has not become integral in our lives, it makes no sense. Quoting the laws, reading it and doing it, but not integrate it in our personal lives, it has no value. It's just an idea, it's just a concept, it's unrealistic. So we understand from the mother and the father's standpoint how they can pollute. Because, like I said, the man can be crafty and refuse his daughter to be with this man, but still collecting the dowry price, whatever the price is. And then he can send her out to this man, collect the dowry price, and still do that. That's craftiness. That's not what the Bible is telling you that you should do. But people with wicked hearts end up polluting their daughters and cause them to be a whore. And then this is going to go back into what? The next thing. Look at this. The woman at the well. This is the book of Mark chapter 10 and verse 12. It says, "And if a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she committed adultery." If the woman put away her husband, absent the biblical reasons for divorce, and you go with another man, just like we just explained, she put away this guy. The man that comes now to marry her, the Roman way, put the ring, that's an act of adultery. Because you did not have a biblical reason on which you put away the first man, more than the fact that your mother didn't like him. That's not a reason for you to put away somebody. No, dealing with this from the woman's standpoint, right? If a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she committed adultery. So, here's this woman. She goes to this Bible study. She likes the way the guy breaks down this scripture, that scripture, this and that. She ended up having sex with him, right? That's now your husband. So the only thing left to do is to do what? Continue the duties of marriage. But you did not see it that way. So you find out that, okay, the Bible studies are getting less. The praying together is getting less. Now you feel like, oh, it's not working out because you're unequally yoked, because he doesn't pray enough again, or he doesn't do the Bible studies enough again, right? So that's what that waters down over a process of time. 6 months down the road, you go in Bible study again with another guy until the sex happens. Then the same. He's not doing much more Bible studies with you. It waters down, and you don't see anything wrong with that. You are polluting yourself because you did not understand that you cannot put away a person because he's not praying enough with you. He's not teaching you enough how you think he should be teaching you. Right? So now you're at your house. Guess what? Something broke down in your home. Then this guy comes, he fixes it, and you watch how he fixes it, and his muscles and his height, and how he's skilled at his job, and you start putting yourself in his way by asking some irrelevant question that has nothing to do with anything. And then he finds out that, okay, and then you end up having you had sex with him. This guy, he's a mobile whatever he does going around, so he's no longer in your state. So you don't hear from, I mean, you hear from him over the phone, but you are not seeing him for months. Then you call it quits. And you see, you pollute yourself because you did not understand from the you laid with that first man. He was still your husband. Everyone else that came after, let's see what it says about them. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 4, and down to verse. Let's go down to verse 18, but we'll start at 16. It says, Jesus said unto her, Go, call thy husband, and come here. You see, woman comes on the scene, hears you breaking down the scriptures and how you sound intelligent and everything. She's trying to put herself in the way. You got, hey, where's your husband? Let him ask me the questions. All right? So that way you'll be in line in the presence of your husband. You will keep yourself in line. So there's no crossing of the threshold right here. Now, here's what she said. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou hast said well. Thou hast well said, I have no husband. Here comes. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidst thou, surely. What is he really saying here? You have had 5 husbands. That first guy that you did the Bible study with and had sex with, that was of that was the only one that God had joined together. So the technician guy that came to the house, the other guy that came and do this, the other guy that came and do that, all those guys were never your husband. And this one that's there now is still not your husband, not according to the law, meaning the law did not join you and this man together. That was out of your own desire. The law joined you and the first guy that you did the Bible study with together. Everyone after that is adultery. And guess what? You cannot go back to the farmer guy. You cannot go back to the one before, because once you had sex with him and pollute yourself, it's forbidden to go back to this person. But here's the problem with some men who do not have any moral standards. Like I said, morally corrupted. You want to have your wife in the house, you want to have sex with this woman out here, then don't really care about her. So guess what? She now seeks attention and have sex with another man. You think you don't care about her, so now you go back and have sex with her. It's not her that you don't care about, it's the law. Because had you cared about the Most High and His law, you would not even put yourself in that position to have sex with a woman, knowing that you cannot offer to her what she would really want of you. You know these women are lonely and they don't mind a little attention and comfort, even once in a while. But you should have understanding of this law. But guess what? You are quite comfortable that she has another guy talking to, so you don't have to deal with the responsibilities of her problem. So until we as men get ourselves in under and subject unto this understanding of the law, we will keep cycling the same thing of what? Polluting our daughters, polluting our women, and the cycle will continue and the land be polluted. Plague, famine, curse, this, that, because we don't want to get ourselves in the order of the scriptures. So no, you cannot have your wife in your house and having random sex with this person. Once this person is not being treated the same way as this person in the house, that's not your wife. So women, once you understand this, you need to be standing on these principles. Once you've lain with a person, you have become one flesh. Doesn't matter if he took you to the church, put you in a white wedding gown, signed wedding papers, make wedding vows. Once you lain with a person, you become one flesh. And that is what the Most High joined together. And for that reason, let no man part it asunder. Why you think in the law it says, if a man has two wives, one beloved and one hated, guess what? You still did not have the power to put away this woman. Did Jacob like Leah? But they were married. He laid with her. He became one flesh with her. Was it in his power to put her away? No, it was not in his power to put her away. So some of our women need to understand that because the man is the head, it's not in his power to put you away for any and any reasons. And this is why it's good that when a woman is going to go to a man, if she doesn't have a father, uncle, big brothers, or whoever to present her to the man, her spiritual brothers from her congregation, or friends, or whoever should be there to be presenting her to him. So he knows that, hey, if you mess up, we are coming for you. We know where to find you. We know your address. We know where you work. But no one is here to hold us men accountable. So we go back to the days of the judges. There's no king in Israel, and every man do according to what is right in their own sight. So if in my eyes it's right to live with a wife and have sex with these people and call them concubines, and these concubines pollute themselves with other men and come back to me, it's right in my eyes. You see, all this is vanity. No, Let's deal with the differences between jealous and envy. Now, jealousy is being worried about being replaced in someone else's affection. So you are with this person here, but you think that you're going to be replaced by this person. That's jealousy. Envy, on the other end, is this person here has a resentful desire of something that the other person possessed. So you see, jealousy would be coming from here, the person that's in the relationship. Envy would be this person out here. They are not the same thing. This is why it says, "Thou shalt not covet." So this person has this possession, you covet it. That's envy. Jealous is this person sees that this person is a threat, it becomes worried about being replaced. That's jealousy. Now we're gonna deal with this question: were women jealous of their husband taking other wives? Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 30, and verse 1. Because a lot of times people go to these different situations in the Bible and then they try to put how they feel about what happened in the Bible. Genesis chapter 30 and verse 1. Let's see if they were jealous of their husband doing that. This is chapter 30 and verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. Did Rachel envy Jacob because he had sex with the sister? Let's read it again. When Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. Why? Because she had children for Jacob. So that's the possession that this person has. She had a resentful desire for someone else's possession, for the children that Leah gave to the husband. She was not jealous of Jacob having sex with Leah. Leah was even there before Rachel. Rachel came 7 years after. Well, not really 7 years, but she came after, right? Now let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 6. So we know that Samuel father had two wives, right? So he says, and he had two wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Down to verse 6, it says, and her adversary also provoked her sore. No, the one that had children provoked the one that had no children. Was she jealous of Samuel's father laying with Hannah? No. It's a mockery when you cannot bring forth child, or let's use the word heir. When you cannot give a son to the man, it's you can be mocked for that. Because that was the price of the woman, to not be barren, to bring forth fruit. How is the man going to multiply and replenish the earth if the woman is barren? Right? So she was just making a mockery out of her. Let's get one more. Genesis chapter 16. And verse 4. It says, and he went in unto Hagar, Abraham, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. So guess what? This woman now got pregnant for Abraham. She started to look at Sarah in a certain way because what? She has a baby for Abraham. She's gonna have a baby for Abraham because that increases her value. So guess what? When you're dealing with jealousy, there's a natural jealousy That is okay. But there's a fake jealousy that is not okay and should not be entertained by any man with wisdom. Here's an example. If you have a woman in her 40s, right? 40s, 50s, if you should take a wife in her 20s, guess what? It's natural for her to be jealous of this young woman because of what? Her ability to produce children. Not jealous of you having sex with a woman. Having sex, jealous of her ability to produce children. It's a natural jealousy. And we as men have no right to speak against that because it's natural. What jealousy is not natural? When you're trying to make a deal about the man having sex with another wife. That is a natural thing. So that jealousy that comes with it is fake. And one of the reasons why you know that it's fake is a lot of the women, not gonna say a lot, majority of the women who claim this type of jealousy, I bet in times past, what they were doing is a lot of them were side chick for other men, meaning that they went into other people's relationship and they never got jealous of the woman that was already there. So it's not that they had a problem with a man having sex with another woman. It's because now that they take up the Bible and they're trying to do all this stuff with it, just like men take up the Bible and try to do all this stuff with the polygyny. For example, if you're in a monogamous relationship with your woman, that was the agreement, that was the original covenant. And now you find out that you're a Hebrew, the Bible is for you, and so forth, and you see where polygyny is legitimate. Can you go and change the covenant of this arrangement and go for other wives? No. Even though it's legitimate in the Bible, the covenant you had with your wife was a monogamous one. And again, the teachers of congregations need to be teaching men that it is unlawful to change that covenant because now you know that the Bible um, is okay with that. You cannot change the original covenant. So it's the same. A lot of the women, they had been in relationships where the man had other relationships and they were never jealous. You know, sometimes where this jealousy comes in, they're never jealous of the woman before. But after, for example, these two people are together. Now, this woman is now in a relationship with this man. She's quite okay with everything. Guess what happens? Now, this man has a third woman. Now, she is not jealous of her, but she's quite okay with this. You see, it's always the one that is before creates the jealousy. So, Rachel was never jealous of Leah, ever. Um, Samuel's father, Samuel's mother, Hannah, was not jealous of the other woman. Neither the other woman jealous of her. Then that was never a case in the Bible. Never. That is something we impose of our own jealousy to say these women were jealous. Sarah was the one that told Abraham to go in unto Hagar. How was she jealous again? Abraham didn't do it of his own consent. She gave permission. That means she wasn't jealous. So I hope this gives a clear understanding or distinction between all these different terms and also open the eyes of some of you guys to know how to deal with these types of relationship or how to stand your grounds when your man is going out of line, right? And vice versa. Shalom.